Welcome back, Mistakes listeners. This is Dave, and of course, this means it's Parenting Mistakes time. This is episode 76, and we record this episode on 10/10/2016, so fresh off the presses, or hot off the presses. Man, I never get my terms right. Anyway, we reviewed a show, I think a Netflix exclusive, Kulipari, an Army of Frogs, and it's an interesting one, of course. Lots of frogs. You can follow us on Twitter at Parent Mistakes. You can like us on Facebook at Parenting Mistakes. You can email us directly at hotmail at Parenting Mistakes. Wait a minute here. Parentingmistakes at hotmail.com. And as always, sit back and enjoy the show. Just give me a pre-warning here before you say so, Dave, because I know we're going to get a quiz or something, right? But just pre-warning, stay-at-home dad time. We may have Maddie coming in asking for a snack today on the show. This would actually be our first guest star, yes?
That's right. Hey, we're keeping it real.
Yeah, I don't want her to come in and have a snack, but hey, I'm the only parent here today, and that's the way it goes on Monday morning.
How to record a podcast with children in the house.
Right, and not have them be a verbal annoyance.
Okay, so you could give me some parenting advice, even though I'm the elder parent.
This still feels like a test.
Well, everything's a test. Your life is one big test. Every day there's a new parent quiz for you.
I guess that's true.
And there's no way for you to study.
Yeah, and the thing is that always drives me nuts about you is that you claim that you are a lifelong student.
I am.
And I graduated from college and I was done. I don't want to learn anything new. Oh, unfortunately, I keep on learning something new every day. Anyway, go ahead.
Well, you enrolled in parent school.
That's true.
There's no summer breaks for parent school.
Yeah, and it costs a lot of money.
Yes, it does. Okay, so let's say, for example, I have a child who is old enough to ride a bike to school.
Yeah.
Which is nice. Level of independence. We don't have to transport odd times, that sort of thing.
Sure, and there's some gas savings.
Yes, and exercise and all that good stuff.
Yeah.
And let's say that child rides bike to school one day and does not lock the bike up.
Uh-oh.
And leaves it there over the weekend when there is a volleyball tournament, which is open to the public.
Does she usually leave her bike over there on the weekend? She didn't tell you.
Not she.
He. Oh, okay. The GoPro is here.
Yes. And let's say that bike disappears.
Sure.
Okay.
Free bike.
And as an added bonus, the bike that was actually ridden there that day.
So okay, so this is not your child.
This is strictly hypothetical.
Some other kid. So does this other kid usually leave their bike there over on a weekend? Does that happen?
Not usually. Occasionally, this is the complexities of parenting, as you know, it's about logistics sometimes.
Oh, sure.
So sometimes it's like, well, you ride the bike there, but then we got to pick them up for something, or they're going to be there late, and we don't necessarily want them riding in the dark, so you could go pick up the kid and the bike, and sometimes you're like, all right, never mind, we'll just lock the bike up and leave it there, and then you can pick it up tomorrow, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But when you don't lock it up and you leave it there over the weekend, and then as an added bonus,
left the GoPro?
No.
Okay, because we all know that his uncle's going to come in and give him another GoPro.
No.
Will his uncle get him a new bike?
Don't tell that story.
Okay, yeah, well, we should call his uncle if he wants a new bike.
Yeah, I know. Yes. See, now my mother's going to know I've told you that story.
Oh, no.
We haven't discussed it on the podcast.
That's
anyway.
Right.
So, as an added bonus, let's just say for hypotheticals that this child occasionally borrows the father's bike.
Oh no!
And so the bike that was removed in this particular instance was the father's bike.
Oh, man. Wow. Oh, wow. Wait, I get it. You removed it.
No.
Okay, so
I wish.
okay. You haven't told him yet.
No, I wish.
Yeah. Oh, no.
So let's say you are in this strictly hypothetical scenario.
Yeah, this is over the weekend, so you discovered this on Monday this morning.
Well, not today. This was
Okay.
a little while ago. But
Okay. Oh, this is a story of a couple weeks ago.
yes.
So it hasn't been resolved.
So you as a parent,
Hmm.
if you're the parent in this scenario, you want there to be some sort of consequences, typically. I mean, maybe you don't. I imagine there are some parents that sort of go, oh, well.
Well, okay. Well, in this consequence parenting moment, like say you're a consequence parent,
Yes.
he would have been an ace if he had lost said bike that was his. That sentence made no sense. If it was his bike and he lost it,
Right.
then
it's
oh,
a case of, well,
well,
you don't have a
dude,
bike.
you know, it
You don't
is
have a
what
bike.
it is, right?
It is what it is. It's a bummer.
Start working at Hickory Farms.
Right.
Christmas is coming.
So,
But
let's
instead, it's yours. And he
So
can look
let-
at you
let-
and say, well, you shouldn't let me borrow the bike. Reverse consequence. That
so
child.
here's the question. Here's the
Yes.
question for you. Here's your
Yes.
quiz question. Let's say you're a consequence parent and your consequence revolves something around an economic scenario. In other words, some sort of financial compensation.
What? I'm sorry.
Okay, so
I'm lost.
let's say your consequence revolves maybe some sort of replacement of the item.
Sure, I get that.
Okay.
But you're the parent that I'm sorry, I don't mean whatever parent this is loaned him your bike knowing all the risks. You should have signed a contract. Hertz
Okay.
does it, right?
Well, it hurts. So
yeah.
what?
If you go to Hertz, you say
Now
I don't
you
want the
have to
insurance,
sign a
right?
document with a bunch of like initials on it.
Well,
Sign
people
here,
borrow
sign here, initial
people
here.
borrow and rent all the time.
Okay. fair
And
enough.
if I wreck the Hertz car and didn't get the Hertz insurance, for example, then I've got to pay for the wrecked car. However, if I
I
do
should've-
get that
should have
Hertz
charged
insurance,
$7 a day or whatever for the insurance.
which, so since my dad has been working at Hertz, my dad's worked with Hertz for almost 18 years now. I don't know if you know that.
I didn't
But
know that.
yeah, he has worked for Hertz for almost. Check this out, guys. Worked for United Airlines for 44 years, retires, works for Hertz for 18 years. Okay, he's been a transporter for them for quite some time.
Okay.
I could be wrong about the date, but quite some time. And we've always been under the impression, Consumer Reports says, don't buy the insurance. Don't get that horrible insurance. Well, he's
Right.
totally changed his tune on this because he's like, I have watched customers come in with just horrible wrecks and just throw the keys at Hertz and say, I paid for the insurance, and there's nothing that Hertz can do.
Huh.
However, they come in with a horrible wreck and it's on their insurance, then Hertz is like, you've got to fix that problem
Right.
through your insurance company. And Dad's like,
Right.
then it's on your record. It's not even on your record if it's under Hertz insurance. It's like the wreck never happened.
Okay. So,
So,
back to the dilemma.
Well, it does coincide, right?
Yes.
He rented the bike from the parent,
Borrowed.
but then it's on the parent.
Okay, so you're saying that if you're the parent in this scenario, you say, "My bad, I shouldn't have
You're gonna
allowed
paint
you
me into
to,
a corner.
to borrow." So you're not going to necessarily charge them any replacement cost.
It's a weird one because you
Since-
let him borrow your bike.
Yes. But he made a poor decision and the bike was removed by a citizen of the community.
So, in my world, Todd,
Yes.
I would have looked at my daughters and I would have said, hey, I just want you to know, if something goes wrong, which I do this all the time, I let them use my stuff all the time. But I always have a verbal guarantee with them before they go out or do whatever with my stuff that X, Y, and Z are going to occur if something goes wrong.
Okay, so do you feel like there is not sort of a built-in understanding of that with your children, even if you do not verbally say it?
Oh, come on. You've been a parent for so long. It doesn't matter. You've got to communicate with them every single time. I'm serious, and you know this. Because they'll always look at you at every single case, in every scenario. I'm not saying they're out to get me. And I'm not saying that they're, basically, they're a bunch of rules lawyers. And if something goes wrong, they're going to point to the exact rules that they got for the particular situation. They always do.
Okay.
Every scenario is independent of everything else. That is their worldview. That's how they function.
Okay, but again, this is where we differentiate a little bit, because you've got younger kids.
That's true.
And I've got older kids. And you get to a point where you sort of say, all right, there is a turning point where you have more general conversations with them. Like you say, we have general expectations of you. Grades, doing your chores, that sort of thing. And so...
Yeah, and for my 7-year-old, I have to set up those rules every single scenario. I have to have a communication with her about every... it drives me nuts, but it makes sure that we totally understand the verbal contract in the scenario. You're right, because right now we live day to day. I'm assuming over time... But the thing is that's your bike. Yes. And I would have at least had... If someone took my car... Oh, okay, now that gets a little bit weird.
Yeah.
Right, because... I would say the first time someone took my car, I say, here are all the rules that are set up. So did you have a conversation with him about a bike and how they need to be responsible with your items that are valuable to you?
I do not recall. I mean, we have had conversations about be safe, look both ways, don't be dinking around with your lock it up, that sort of thing. The general stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do we have this conversation every single day with every single thing? No, we don't.
I do at this point, but I understand what you're saying at your point.
Once you get to the point where you're a little older.
Right, because I can't imagine, let's say someone turns 16, and because I just thought about the car, and I'm like, I don't want to have that conversation every day about how I feel about them being responsible with the automobile.
Right.
Right, because I'd be like, every morning I get up and say, let's talk about the car, right? That one I get.
Right.
Right now, when they're playing with, say, the GameCube, I've got to have the conversation every time.
Yeah. So where is the break point between, because you talk about a car, a bike is a little more of a big ticket item.
Yeah, because see, what I'm trying to establish here is what was the verbal contract between you and say, son, right? And what my verbal contracts look like right now, because I'm looking at the Hertz thing, and I'm like, the Hertz thing works, right? In that we sign a contract with Hertz, and this is how this goes, and if it doesn't go the way you want it to go, then who's going to pay? Well, we've already decided earlier. Yeah. So it sounds like you guys have already had a verbal contract with said individual. It's just, unless, of course, he's coming back to you saying, you've never talked to me about being responsible with your items, which I highly doubt he can say that, right?
Yeah, I mean, when the kids get older, some of it, again, is just sort of implied within sort of your general constructs of parenting. To sort of say, look, we expect you to be responsible. We expect you to not just leave your stuff lying around. You are old enough to be aware of your surroundings. You're old enough to say to yourself, I should always lock up my bike wherever I go.
Yes.
So, again, that's the balance between saying, okay, I shouldn't have to have this conversation with you every single time.
Yeah, and it gets doubled down when it's not your item.
Yes.
right? Whenever you're borrowing somebody else's item, be it mine or whoever's, you need to be doubly conscious that it's not your item, right? This is a special privilege that you've received.
Right, and there's a difference between, they're putting away the dishes and one slips out of their hand and lands on the floor and shatters. You don't necessarily say, "Oh, you dropped a ball," that's
coming out of your allowance.
That'll be $4. I mean, you can say, "All right, that was an accident. I get that. I've dropped balls. It happens."
This gets even weirder because you're putting a monetary value. Because you could say the same thing about the bike, right?
It is a monetary. That's the thing. It's no longer there. And if I would like to have a bike again, or this hypothetical parent would like to have a bike again, it has to be replaced.
Right.
So then do you say, okay, how much does a new bike cost? Let's say you were going to replace that bike, that model, that make. You talking retail price, or you talking some, lesser amount?
Oof. Boy, oh boy, I feel bad for him. I do. I feel bad for him. I know, here's where it gets really nuts. I know that if I came home with a wrecked car, there's no way I could pay for a wrecked car.
Correct.
At 16 or 15, I couldn't do it.
Correct.
Be like, I'm really sorry, and then it's on me.
Right, but would you have had consequences?
Yes, I'm sure of it. Of no doubt, I'm sure. Yeah, in my parents' regime, there would have been, hey, you're not driving for some time.
Right, and you probably would not have come back with, but you didn't tell me when I was going out the door this morning to be safe when I drove the car.
Oh, I'm sure the excuse would be different, right? Like who was the other issue too is, well, his is so clear cut. He really screwed up. It got stolen. It's within reasonable price range to pay back for, which is really crazy. And here's the other one I'll throw in there. It's a nice convenience that he's riding his bike to school. So if I take bike away, his bike that's still around, then I'm hamstringing myself.
Right. We've talked about this before. This is always a dilemma with parenting, particularly when it comes to taking away privileges. If a kid is acting out and you say, all right, they've got a birthday party this weekend, and if you don't behave, you're not going to go to the birthday party. Well, what happens if, you were planning on going out while your kid was at the birthday party, and you've now punished yourself if you say, nope, we're going to keep this now grumpy kid at home and deal with him stomping around the house.
That one actually is a little bit more defined, where the bike is actually such a positive.
Yes.
The bike is a real plus for everybody involved.
Yes.
Now, I mean, and the other thing too is to say to him, well, I guess I'm taking your bike. Your bike is now my bike. Which I'm sure you don't want to be riding around in a BMX.
Well, his bike's actually bigger than mine.
Oh, well, there you go.
Yeah. Well, I don't like his bike, so.
Yeah, see, that's the other thing. It's not your bike. But that is another option, right? Hey, your bike is now my bike.
Right.
Of course, if you have a daughter, you're not going to want to ride on her pink,
Oh, you never know.
Yeah.
A little variety.
You know what? It's funny. I do ride around on Grandma's bike. I've got my
that
grandmother's
works.
bike. I like it because I don't have to go over that high bar.
There you go.
Yeah, which I've never understood. Why do guys get that high bar when you got a zone which got to actually hit that part? It seems more logical to me to have the low bar where you're like, oh, shortstop. Oh, there's nothing there to hit me, right?
These are the great mysteries of the universe, Dave.
It's true. I don't get it. All right, I gotta know. Well, we gotta tell me, what was the resolve? What did you do?
No, I'm gonna leave it as a mystery.
No,
we'll talk about
don't
future
do that.
episode. Nope,
No.
future episode. Come on, we gotta tease the audience. This is an opportunity to say, hey, you'll just have to tune in next time.
Okay, fine. Yeah, you're right. Let's drive some numbers.
Is this 75?
This is episode 76.
76.
Yeah.
So episode 77. Maybe we'll have a big reveal.
Okay, there you go. Awesome.
All right. I have no awkward transition, but we did another show.
Yeah, we did another show. Yeah.
You want to talk about it?
Sorry, I've got a little frog in my throat.
Oh!
I got it. I got it.
For that, haven't you? You've been waiting.
No. I'm that awesome.
So,
Anyway.
if we're going to do this review, I guess we better hop to it. All right, composure, professionalism.
Yes. Kulipari. How do you want to say it?
Kulipari.
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 We watched this show on Netflix called Kulipari, An Army of Frogs.
Yes.
And it is on, it's on Netflix, and it is one season in, I believe.
Yes.
It gets a little blended these days. We've talked about this before with Netflix and that sort of thing, just because people aren't watching the same way as they did back in the past. I mean, we still have regular television shows that are on weekly, and there is a seasonal schedule, but particularly with Netflix original content and Amazon original content, you get the whole season right off the bat, so you have the opportunity to binge watch and just power through the whole thing.
Yeah, and I think the other thing that's come up for us as a family, and I'm not sure if this was the case when you were raising kids that were young like mine, is very tempting to sit down with a child, aka right now, and just let them run a series in front of them.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Hey, I've got a lot of chores, or hey, I got a podcast today, or whatever. Yes, I'm shining a light on me. And suddenly your kid's watching 5 or 6 episodes because Netflix will just keep pumping them out.
Yeah.
It plays it like one long episode. Like your kid could sit there in front of almost like, say, 15 hours. Like, I'd say a series for an animated show could be like 15 to 16 hours. You could be watching 15 to 16 hours of an entire series, right?
Yes. So this show is about, as you might imagine, a village of frogs, and I called this like Teenage Mutant Ninja Frogs because they do, and I don't want to misspeak here, they do some sort of martial arts fighting style, which involves jumping around and swinging sticks and fighting, that sort of thing.
And yes.
So the show centers on, and I can't remember his name. I'm looking at it on Netflix. It says Daryl, but it's Darrell or something like that. Do you remember exactly?
No.
Anyway, the main character is a young frog who sort of wants to be a hero, and apparently these are tree frogs.
No, they're not all tree frogs.
They're not all tree frogs?
They're all different variety of frogs.
Well, okay, so these frogs have, some of them have this poison, and that allows them to be part of the Kulipari.
That is correct.
So special powers.
Yes.
And he does not have special powers, and that always makes him sort of feel like he's left out.
Well, no, it's even worse because his dad was a Kulipari.
Right. So
Did you say that already? I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, I did not.
Okay.
Yeah, and so he idolizes his now departed father, but feels like he can't quite live up to his legacy.
Well, I think in his brain he should be a Kulipari.
Right.
In his little tiny frog brain.
Right. So he has it appears that it's sort of this combination of the fighting skill set, but also sort of the magical powers that go along with it.
Yep.
So.
And I should say, they're anamorphic, right? You're right about the Teenage Mutant Ninja thing. It's sort of like the Mutant Ninjas are turtles, but they've got muscles. They look like people that are in turtle outfits, right? And I'd say the same thing with these frogs, is that they're incredibly muscular and they're unfrog-like. They're not Kermit the Frog, right?
Right.
Right. So it's weird. It's always weird how animators decide, like, hey, we want to do this really cool frog show, but to make it cool, we got to make them look cool. So, right, they've got sticks and swords, and I don't know if any of them has swords, as I recall, but weapons. They're muscle bound. They all look like Arnold Schwarzenegger in some capacity, right? But at the same time, they carry that same distinctive frog look.
So you have sort of your cliche set of characters. You have the main protagonist. You have the pudgy sidekick, and who's just concerned with like eating and that sort of thing, and then you have the feminine character who in this case is like an aspiring nurse who wants to go around fixing people, healing
right.
people.
Yeah, she got to getting excited when the main character what was he breaking?
Oh, I think he had a scratch on his head or something.
Something
like
really,
that.
yeah, and he was really excited about fixing him and stuff. And then of course there's the rival. We'll call him Reggie from Archie, right? If there's Archie, there's always Reggie, right? And so Reggie shows up and he's like, "My kung fu is better, and you're never gonna have the poison Kalapari, so you're just always gonna be a wuss. You're never gonna be your dad, right?" Which of course antagonizes him, which gets really weird because she's like, "Get into a fight so I can heal you."
Right.
Right? So he gets into a fight with this other rival frog, but you know, in the back of your mind, I guess as a kid, if you've never seen a cartoon show, and at this point, if you're a kid, there's 1,000,002 of them, you wouldn't know that these two rivals eventually will be probably the best of friends. Probably. Or if anything, incredible combat allies.
We're also introduced to the antagonist, which in this case is actually two sets of characters. There's some scorpions, and then there's a spider queen, and they're trying to join forces.
Whose plotline I found way more interesting than the frogs.
Right. And they're going to join forces and attack the amphibolans.
Right.
As we are told. So I guess it's just a general question, and I always ask this, but what do you think of this show? I mean, is this a good show? Is it good for kids? I mean, what's your angle on this?
It's hard to say I liked this part, but I did like the fact that they focused more on the villains.
Okay.
I thought the villains were actually pretty good and actually really interesting. I like the fact that the main villain, the main scorpion, was actually looking to the Spider Queen for an alliance, right? Like, the only way I'm going to be able to take this is to actually build an alliance, and if we do this, then we'll really be able to take him, versus I'm just going to take over the role. I'm just going to be the big bad. They could have written him as he's just the main power. He's got all the power at his biddings. Like, Cobra Commander always had a plethora of men just to throw at the situation, or loyal flowers. They never... I think one of the hardest part of a G.I. Joe is you never get into why you would want to be a Cobra officer. Why is it so interesting to be here? And this show, they don't do that. They actually show that these guys actually have some reasoning. They're not dumb. They realize they can take the amphibolans, because I think there is no Kalapari at this point. Right? There's nobody to defend the lands.
Yeah, it seems like they've sort of forgotten that there's bad guys out there, and they're just kind of living their low life. But then there's this evil force out there.
So they're like, hey, now's the time to take them. Which I'm like, there's some smarts there. The other stuff, you're right, is just cliche. Right?
Yeah, I mean, we talked about this before. One of the things I struggle with is, is it okay for us to continue to put, and I guess we do this even as adults, to keep putting sort of the same basic storyline in front of kids. To sort of say, here's the good guys, they're good, root for them. Here's the bad guys are mad at the good guys for some inexplicable reason, and they're going to try to destroy the good guys, and then the good guys are going to have to defend themselves. Yay!
Right. Well, that theme is still going on, even to date. If you look at anything we're watching in movies and stuff, of course, that's all been switched up a little with Game of Thrones, which is why I think Game of Thrones is so popular right now. The good guys aren't necessarily good guys. The bad guys aren't necessarily bad guys. So you just don't know what's going to happen. And then the amount of death, you don't know who's going to survive at the end of the show or not. So that's, I think, for us, extremely intriguing. Because we've seen the same thing over and over and over again. I think for a kid's show, again, the creativity pops up with the villains. No one's really fully explored a cartoon villain. I'm going to get bit for saying that, I'm sure, but as far as cartoon villains are concerned, usually they're just there to push the heroes along.
Right, they're usually fairly one-dimensional.
Yeah, and these
They're
guys
just kind of
aren't.
angry, and they have a singular focus, and they just want to create havoc.
Right. And yeah, so you and I have watched a lot of shows, and like I said, I can predict that the Reggie and Archie character at some point will become friends, or at least fight side by side to take on the Scorpions. Right? It only makes sense.
Right. And the main character at some point is going to figure out that he doesn't need this special power in order to live up to his father's legacy and accept himself. And there is also sort of that cliche message to the kids of, you don't have to have special abilities or talents or whatever, that you just have to accept who you are and embrace your role in the world as an average contributor. Even though in this case, we're always going to sort of put the main character as still in a heroic sort of motif, as it were.
Yep. So it's unfortunate because I feel like we're giving this show kind of a tired review, but I'll say this, there are better shows that do this better.
Yeah.
We've watched better shows that do this better.
Right. We watched one episode. I think it was fine. I watched it and I was just sort of like, yeah, it's fine.
Yeah.
It's not, it's again, like a lot of their shows, reasonably clean, standard, physical banter back and forth. Not to the sort of the snarky level of a Disney show.
Yeah, that's true. There isn't a whole lot of sarcasm.
Yeah, just your regular friend, sort of good-natured ribbing versus.
Okay, this is not terrible. If you want to watch any of this, watch Thundercats, which does it way better. There was a new version of Thundercats that came out that did this way better. Go watch Thundercats, kids. Because it's very similar. And cats are cooler than frogs.
Oh,
I'm going to get in big trouble for that, too. But,
Yeah,
I guess it's just an opinion. Are you a frog guy or a cat guy? You're a chicken guy.
That's a really deep, complicated question.
That's right.
You never know. This could capture the imagination. I mean, look what happened with turtles.
That's true.
I mean, did you think that, if I had told you, in the early 80s, hey, there's going to be this fairly successful multi-decade franchise that's going to revolve around Ninja Turtles.
Oh, I read the original comic before it ever was a cartoon. So you're asking the wrong guy. I would have said absolutely
I think the average
yes.
person would not necessarily have put Turtles into a ninja category.
Oh, I was so disappointed with the cartoon because the comic was great. But yes, I knew it was going to go well because it was new, it was original. There's nothing like it. It was weird.
Yes. Got anything else?
Well, yeah. So I guess recommendation, right? Yeah. Oh, here's
I'm gonna give it a solid meh.
Yeah, solid average. Okay. I will say this: do not be deceived. Mark Hamill, who is seriously publicized that he's involved in this show. I did my research on it, and he is not a long-running character.
No, he's in like 2 episodes,
He
right?
shows up in episode 8 and 9, and if you go to Mark Hamill's Wikipedia, it's not even on there. It's not even in his filmography. It's just another thing that he did in 2015 or 16.
A
right?
lesser credit, as it were.
Yeah, well, it's just it. Yeah, another paycheck, right? I'm sure he's getting that money. He doesn't even know where it's coming from. So don't be fooled. It's not like there's this really crazy Joker character that's part of this show that's really intriguing, or one of the enemies is voiced by him, and that's just not the case.
Yeah. But hey, he is on the show.
But hey, he's on the show at some point.
There is a Luke Skywalker appearance. So there you go.
Right, so there you go.
All right, you can follow us on Twitter, Parent Mistakes. You can like us on Facebook, Parenting Mistake. You can send us an email, parentingmistakes@hotmail.com. And you can support us financially on Patreon. Search for Parenting Mistakes. You can buy my book on Amazon, Business Ethics, The Search for an Elusive Idea. And you can find our podcast now everywhere. Mm-hmm. This list, I'm going to have to start writing this down to make sure we got everything. Because we are on Podomatic. We are on iTunes. we are on Google Play, we are on YouTube, and we are on Stitcher. So, if you have been listening to us on the Apple side of things more often, and you have Google friends, Android friends, let them know that we're on Google Play and Stitcher. And with that, I think I'm going to go for a bike ride.
What? Oh, that's a teaser.